I'm Julianne Murphy. I am a full-time faculty member in the Health, Sport, and Exercise Science Department. My office is across the street in the R building. I currently teach nutrition and health. I do some health psychology, sports psychology, and drug and alcohol classes. So I'm pretty busy with teaching. I usually teach about 6 classes a semester. And I'm also the chair of the curriculum committee. And so this is a committee of faculty and administrators that oversee the curriculum and the courses at Triton College.
How large is the committee?
How large is the committee? The committee is, I'm going to estimate about 20 people.
Okay.
And mostly faculty. Okay, and there is an adjunct. Are you all adjuncts here today? Okay, there is an adjunct representative on the committee as well. William Justice, maybe you've heard of his name before. So this committee, we have to make sure that the coursework, which we're reviewing today, is the course outline. This is what I call a glorified syllabus. That course outline is made correctly for every class that Triton College offers. The committee also oversees the curriculum, and that is obviously the group of classes of all the courses that will be taken to earn a certificate or degree. So this curriculum committee has to make sure that all the paperwork is ready to go to the state and that we abide by the rules that the state has for curriculum. And then we send that to the Illinois Community College Board, the ICCB, and they will approve our curriculum, or they will send it back and say you have to make some corrections before we'll approve it. So the committee's job is to make sure that when we send off the course outline, which we're reviewing today, and the curriculum, that it's ready to go, and that it'll be approved as soon as we send that. So I'm going to talk today about one of the forms that the curriculum committee oversees, and that's the course outline. The course proposal is the cover page for the course outline, and you should have copies of that in front of you. I'm going to show them to you on the screen up here as well. And what I'm not going to talk about today is the curriculum forms. It's the group of classes that we put all the courses together in HIA or in horticulture, and then we send that group off to form a curriculum. So all of these forms could be found on the portal, and I have the address down here for you. But I also wanted to show you that I did post a blank course outline, which we're reviewing today, on the website. So you can go to Triton College. The Curriculum Committee's website is actually under the Academic Senate. So if you search for Academic Senate, and then in this left-hand column, why did that do that? This left-hand column, we click Curriculum Committee. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out why this is happening.
I took the course in that. Yeah, close it. There you go.
somebody teach me how to do that. The forms are also located, it's about halfway down on the Senate page under the Curriculum Committee. So we're going to be doing the topical course outline today. The cover page for that is called the course proposal. Okay? And I have a blank copy for you. We're going to review that. This is the course proposal page. It's the cover page. And then this is a blank course outline. We'll get to that in a minute. I have handouts for you. One of them is blank, and one of them is actually the completed course outline for my class, which is nutrition science. So you have an example of how these things look when they're completed. Okay? So before we get to what's on individual one, I just want to go through a couple more things here. So today we're doing the courses. Every course has a prefix and number. On my example, I have HTH 120, and that's how we identify where that course belongs in the college, by its prefix and then the numbers that will be in there. All courses must be in a curriculum. So think about the course that you teach. It has to be in a curriculum that Triton College offers. So it has to be either in a certificate or a degree. And some of them may be electives. Some of them may be requirements in that degree. But does that make sense to you? You think your class, your course that you're teaching is tied to a certificate or a curriculum? Okay. So if you were thinking of creating a new class, that would be great. You know, if you think that the school needs it and that students would benefit from taking that, but know that you have to have that put into a certificate or a degree in order for that to work, all right? And all courses must be reviewed yearly. So every one of the course outlines on the book, and I tried to figure out the number, how many we have, and I'm thinking it's probably around 1,000 to 1,500. I know that that's a large estimate, but we do have quite a bit of courses. When we make changes to any course, on that cover page, which I call the course proposal form, we have to indicate what was changed and why it was changed, okay? If it's a new course, we're not changing anything, but why are we making this course and what curriculum it's tied to? So it's very important to make sure on that course proposal page that you have a rationale, that you're indicating what you're doing, but also have a rationale for doing it, and then have an advisory committee support that change. So many of the departments at Triton College have advisory committees. Some of them, it could be as simple, were you sending that out by email to the advisory committee and say, this is what I'm thinking about changing, could you give me your input? And non-advisory committees are typically businesses within the community, maybe higher ed universities that are within our community, people that maybe your students might become employed with in the future. So the department usually forms a small advisory committee. You can ask your coordinator or chair if you have one, but if you're thinking about making a change, it's a good idea to run that by the advisory committee for their input, okay? And that could be part of your rationale of why we changed this, okay? Let me know if we have any questions as we move through here. So the two forms we're going to review, course proposal form, and I have it written here, but I think it's going to make more sense when I show it to you, but the course proposal form is that header form. Yeah. It has the title right here, course proposal form. So I'm going to show you that on the overhead in one moment, but it must include the current course information and if anything was revised. It has to have a course description listed on that course proposal page and indicate if it's IAI. From looking at, where did I put my list here? From looking at the courses that you guys are teaching for, math may have, where's Jane? Math may have some IAI courses. I think the rest of you are here from, I don't know if Susan, if Mass Comm has an IAI course. So an IAI course it's called the Illinois Articulative Initiative. This is a course that we have an agreement with over 100 different colleges and universities in Illinois that if they take a class at Triton, it's going to count for the exact same class at the higher university when they transfer. Most of them are gen eds. They're the communication classes, social behavioral science classes, math, science, things like that. None of mine, exercise science or IAI. It doesn't mean it's not going to transfer. It's just that we don't have agreements with the higher universities in those particular courses. But every one of my classes still will transfer. Okay, so in this proposal form, we're going to state the rationale, provide advisory committee support, and then we're going to have, you guys would send that to your chair or coordinator. The chair or coordinator would send that to the dean. So let me show you what the course proposal page looks like. And that's this first page right here. It's one page. You have that in front of you. You want to mark whether you're making a new or revised course. Okay. After we do that, we're going to put the current information of how the course looks right now. And on this side, you only mark what you're changing. Okay? So you don't have to fill every box in here. So for the current course, the course prefix, again, I'll use mine as an example. I would put HTH. The course number is 120. The title of the course, how many credit hours. This is something that could become a tiny bit confusing is the credit hours. For lecture, every one lecture hour equates to 1 credit hour for the student. So it's 1-to-1, very simple. So many of your classes, are they 3 credit hours? 3 lecture hours is a 3 credit hour course. If there's labs involved, it's actually 2 lab hours for 1 credit hour for the student. So for a general lab, it's 2 lab hours equate to 1 credit hour for the student. Okay? Clinical lab, there's an interval of how many hours in the classroom to how many credit hours that equates to. Clinical hours are usually within the healthcare field. I'm not an expert on that, so I usually leave that up to other committee members to make sure that that's accurate if there's a clinical lab. And that's when we'll take, for an example, a nursing student, maybe an ophthalmic technician student, is going to go do their, I don't know if you call it internship hours or something at the facility, and they have an equation that dictates how long you have to be there and how many student credit hours that they're going to earn for that, right? Because they're not at the facility for 75 hours and you're going to earn 75 hours of credit for a college. So there's an interval we look through on that. So just remember, for a lecture, it's 1 credit hour lecture is one credit hour for a student. For the lab, a lot of science classes have lab, 2 credit lab for 1 credit hour for the student. Okay, so it's 2 hours in the lab work for 1 credit hour. Now, to make this a little bit more confusing, and then you can ask me questions if you have questions. When I'm talking about 1 lecture hour, or 1 lab hour, or 2 lab hours, every time I say the word 1, it's 15 hours in the classroom. So if you have a 3 lecture hour class, we'll do 3 times 15, 45 hours in the classroom. Does that make sense? So for every 1 lecture hour, we have to have that student in the classroom for 15, they call it seat time, 15 hours of seat time. All right, so a lot of Triton's classes are 3 credit hour, 3 lecture. So we have to have that student in the classroom for 45 hours, contact hours, okay? Now for lab, it's the same number, 15, right? If I actually have lab classes in my area, they're the fitness classes. It's a 2 lab class. So they have to be in the classroom for 30 contact hours with the instructor. But those 2 labs equate to 1 credit hour for the student. So they don't earn 2 credit hours for that lab. So it's like half, they're earning half for labs, okay? Does anybody have questions on that?
So every lab is just twice done on physical time that they have to
Correct.
be there.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I have 2 classes. One is 5 hours at the classes, and then still 3 credit hours. And then I have another 3 credit hour class at 6 hours. So what's the difference? Is it just...
Are they regular lab hours? Well, so for the 5, you could probably do like, it could be 2 lab, maybe it's 4 lab, and then it gives you 2 credit hours.
Okay.
And then the other ones might be 3 lecture. It could be 4 lab and 3 lecture. That one would equate to 5 total.
Okay.
So yeah, you'd have to do the math for each individual class to get to the total credit hours per student.
Okay.
But do you know if they're lab or lecture?
So it's because it's in the kitchen. So on the 5 hours, I spend the first hour lecture, and then it's always in the kitchen afterwards.
So it might be.
So I guess it's depending on the topic.
It might be 8 lab and 1 lecture.
Okay.
That would equate to 5.
That's good.
Okay. All right. So then we're going to write down if it's a prerequisite or not to take your class. Do you have to have passed another class to get into that? Do you have to have a minimum proficiency to get into the class? Variable, meaning can we change the credit hours at different semesters? Most of it is no. Most of the classes you'll be teaching are not variable. So every time you teach it, it's a set number of credit hours. The only ones that are variable are some 296s, which are special topics. And that one might be, would be, you could change the credit hours based on the semester you're teaching, a special topics class. Repeatable, can the student take this more than once for credit? And will they get reimbursed for the additional times that they take that class? And I'm not exactly sure. We have a few classes that do that at Triton. Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure. Again, regular lecture hours are not going to, we can't do that where you would get like 6 credit hours for taking nutrition twice. That usually doesn't happen. But maybe in cases where it's an internship or they have to master a skill before they move on in a field, it might be repeatable. Okay? So you write down everything that's going on in the course now. You could find that information on old course outlines. Every course outline that is completed is on the portal. And so when we access the portal, we could go to the curriculum page, and I'd love to show you that today. I could come back and do that. You can email me, and I could walk you through it. So you may ask yourself, well, where do I get this information? It's on the portal. When you go to the portal, there's a faculty resource section. Click on that. It'll say curriculum. Click on the curriculum page. And on the bottom right, there's a section with all the course outlines that the entire college has. So you could put the information from that, and then you're going to put what you changed in this side. Okay. If you're creating a brand new course that we don't have, all the information would just go on this side because there's nothing current. And then what we do is, this is important, I think a step some faculty forget, writing what curriculum your course is in. So give me an example of a class that one of you teach. Give me the name of the class.
Cinema appreciation.
Okay. So you would list here by number what curriculum that's in. And it could be just Associate of Arts, right? Or Associate of Science. So you'd list that. And then if it's in a specific program, if I said to you, I want that class in my exercise science degree, you would list that as well. And that's important to know because if you change something, you need to notify the people whose curriculum the class is in so they're aware of the change. So we're going to list, what curriculum is affected by this. The current course description, if you don't change it, you don't have to fill in the proposed new course description. And again, this is both in the catalog and on the course outlines that are posted. The rationale, this is where you have to put what did you change, why did you change it. Now, if it's something simple like a textbook, you might not have to send it to an advisory committee. But if you want their input, you can. And then just type in there, we reviewed this with the advisory committee. They approve our changes. You could attach emails from the advisory committee or notes if they were physically on campus and they reviewed it on campus. Okay? You're going to put your name, your coordinator or chairperson's name, and the dean's name. And that's how the flow will go. You will send it to your chair or coordinator. They will send it to the dean will send it to the curriculum committee. Once we get the forms, we have two ways of reviewing them. One is called the technical review committee. So all the forms will be posted on Blackboard. And there's a group of, it's probably close to 15 people that review it just online. And they'll communicate with you if they want you to make any changes. After they review it, maybe you've made a few more edits, then it goes to the curriculum committee. And then once a month, we will meet the first Thursday of the month. And then by then, it's probably good to go. If you've had your coordinator approve it, the dean approve it, the technical review committee approve it, last step, curriculum committee approves it. By the time it gets to us, it shouldn't have any problems because you would have been made aware of any edits that you needed to make before that. Okay, so that's just the cover page. And I want to go on to the actual course outline now. Important concepts that we're going to list on there, and then you're going to see them on your form. We have to put how many credit hours in, the course description, overall learning goal, how the instructor is going to provide the materials to the student. A lot of these are check boxes, okay? We're going to list the textbook, how you will assess the student, that's another checkbox. What gen eds the course, this is the college gen eds, there's 5 of them now, what gen ed the course is tied to. This is my favorite part that I love reviewing, and this is the topics and then the learning outcomes. So for every hour you're in the classroom, you have to write down on this form what you're teaching, right? So if it's a 3 credit hour course and it's all lecture, 45 hours in the classroom, you have to write down what you're teaching for those 45 hours, hour by hour by hour. And maybe there's a topic you teach for 3 hours. So you put carbohydrates. I teach this for 3 hours. But you have to indicate what you're doing for every single hour in that classroom, and then what the learning outcomes are for each of those topics, okay? So we'll go back to this blank form. You could follow along with me if you wish with the one that I have already made for you, which is the nutrition one. That way you get an example So it'll say, it'll have this Triton College symbol, and then the name of my class is Nutrition Science. So you can use that as you're following along. One thing I want to make you aware of at this point, there's old course outline forms out there, and the way you identify whether this is a new or old form is like the symbol. This form was just updated like February 1st. So you want to make sure if you're using a form, it's this brand new one, and it's the one with the TC symbol. All the old ones have apples on them. Don't use the apple forms anymore. If you pull up an old course outline from the portal, remember I said on the portal page all the course outlines on? If you open those, they're all going to have apples on them, okay? Because this just came out. And what we're actually doing as a college, we're having a couple of student workers copy all the old course outlines onto the new form. And then the chairs and coordinators of your area will have a form, the actual course outline on the new form after that's done. We're hoping that the work studies could copy all the old ones onto the new form and give them to your chairs and coordinators by March 1st. Maybe a little delayed with the computer problems. We'll see how that goes. Maybe delayed by a little bit, but hopefully not. So if you're thinking of revising the course, just know you can ask your chair or coordinator. Sometime around March 1st, they will have the course that you teach on the new form, and then you could just make your edits on that, okay? So when we have our course outline, right, the first thing that you're going to fill out is, this is called the course proposal page. It's only one page, and then this is called the course outline, okay? A lot of it is self-explanatory, so I'll go a little quickly, and then you'll have time to ask questions, right? What school are you working out of? I work out of arts and sciences. Maybe you're in healthcare careers, or maybe you're in the business and tech section. There's 3 divisions of schools on our campus. So you're going to write which one you're in, okay? Then the date that you're preparing it. Are you thinking of doing it this semester? Maybe in the future? So if you did it this semester, the date would be, actually we're in spring of 2019, but you can actually list the actual date if you would like as well. You can put spring 2019 and then like 2/11/19, okay? The department you work for, your name, market or curriculum served. So you can see on my sheet for nutrition, I listed all of the different curriculum that my course is in. It's important to do that. So I'm in the Associate of Arts, Associate of Science as a Gen Ed, excuse me, as an elective. I say Gen Ed so much, it just came out. No, my class is an elective in AA or AS. It's required in that, where it says C3368, it's required in the personal training program, and it's required in the Associate of Science, which is exercise science. So you would write what curriculum your course is in that area. If it's IAI, you would put the code here, and every one, whether it's communications, math, science, has a different code. You would indicate that there. Next annual review date. Every year, by contract, the departments have to review every class we have. So that's why we say, which year are you reviewing it? Spring 2019. When's the next time you're going to review it? Spring 2020. So just put a year from them, okay? Prefix. This is where you put MAT. I'm guessing prefixes off the top of my head now. ENT. What is horticulture? HOR? HRT, okay. So you put your prefix. You don't have to put the section number, but you would put the 3-letter prefix, the 3 number of the course, okay? So mine is HCH 120. You'll put that here, title of the course, and how many credit hours. So I love easy math. This one happens to be just lecture. 3 lecture hours equates to 3 total credit hours, okay? Go ahead.
Is there ever, do courses ever get developed between like 2 departments?
Are there classes at 2 departments developed? I think someone would have to, it has to land somewhere. It has to land somewhere, which would be, what are we going to call that a prefix for? Like, where are we going to put that? I developed a class once for the psychology department. I don't work for that department, but it has a PSY prefix, and I teach it. So it has to have a landing spot, would be my answer to that question. So you've got to figure out what department's going to kind of like own that particular class. But I encourage collaboration. So if there's carryover with your course in another area that you think your course could benefit another department or that other department's course could benefit you guys, definitely talk and work together. People thought it was kind of crazy when I said, I'm going to make a class for psychology. And they said, well, why wouldn't you take that in your department? I have, sports psychology in my department, but I developed health psychology and gave to the psychology department. It's where's the best fit? Where do other universities have that class? I mean, some of it is doing research. And the two classes that I'm speaking of, the health psych and the sports psych, half the colleges I looked at, they were in psychology. The other half the colleges I looked at, they were in exercise science. So I split it up, give everybody a little bit.
So that class you developed, that psychology class, would that be a requirement for you?
It is. It's a requirement in our Associate of Science and Exercise Science for the wellness concentration.
But it's also could be used for psychology students?
Yes. Yeah, it could be used for psychology students. In fact, some of the classes you guys teach, you might have a student take it that's not in your curriculum that wants to be, in your program. Like maybe they take your class because they're really interested in it. They can use it as an elective, but they're like math majors, right? I don't know how much that would work in healthcare careers, but a lot of people, I have people taking nutrition class that are business majors, computer majors, but they need an extra elective, and that's what they chose to take, right? And a lot of the classes will still count as elective, even if it's not mandatory in that curriculum, and that's okay. If we had 4 lab hours, that would be 2 credits. Remember, we double the lab hours for total credits in the classroom, okay? Clinical labs, ask your coordinators what that interval is. And sometimes it's different per which healthcare career you're in. Okay, you're going to put if there's any prerequisites for the class. Do you have to take something and pass that before you're allowed to register for the class that you're teaching, that you're developing, okay?
Is it hard to pass that?
Which class?
Just to ask for it to be a
prerequisite?
Yeah.
That's a great question. The ICCB or the state really does not like any prerequisites on 100 level classes. I mean, it could be a test prerequisite where you have to test at a certain level on the entrance exam to get into that particular class. Those prerequisites are okay, but they don't like course prerequisites for another course that's 100 level. Some math and science, maybe you need rhetoric like 096 before you could take rhetoric 101. So developmental classes, they're okay. Maybe you need math 055 before you get into math 085, math 085 before you get into math 170. So the developmental courses are okay. What the ICCB doesn't like is, I say to them, you have to have like science of personal health, which is HTH 104, before you get into nutrition, which is HTH 120. So they don't really think that students should have to take a 100 level class to get into another 100 level class, because we're the first year. Developmental, that's understandable. Placement test prerequisites, that's understandable. But we don't see a lot of prereqs outside of developmental or entrance exam on 100 level classes. Sometimes there's prereqs for a 200 level class. Okay. Again, there has to be a really good rationale for doing that. Maybe it's you have to pass this before you get into this 200. Okay, and then just rationalize it. Have a good reason, because the state will definitely ask why. And they'll allow it in some cases for a 200 level. Okay. Catalog course description, it's important you put it word for word what's in the catalog. In fact, we pull off of this when we make the catalog. So what's ever there now, you have to put that word for word there. If you want to change it, say you're doing a course revision and that's what you want to change, that's fine. You could change it. Definitely indicate that here, right? This is a course proposal page, the old course description, the new course description. And then when we get to the course outline, you're going to put the new course description here, okay? Not the old one anymore. Questions on that? That's what will go in the college catalog, word for word, right? Then the overall learning goal, 1 or 2 sentences. Upon successful completion of this class, the student will be able to, and you just want to put 1 or 2 sentences. What's the basic thing that they'll be able to do when they're done with that particular course? And I put on page 2 of mine, the student will be able to comprehend the scientific literacy of nutrients and their effect on the physiological and psychological function of the human body. So we don't put 20 learning outcomes. There's another area for that. Just a basic synopsis of what's the most important thing they're going to learn when they take that class. Section 2, required textbooks. There's an example. I do AA, but there's 2 examples for you here, whether you want to do APA or MLA. And the technical review committee will look at that and make sure it's cited properly. Okay. Now, if you don't have a required textbook and they're optional or it's an open resource, you could list that. You still have to list it if you're using an open resource book, where there are some books online for free. I have a class where I use the national organizations. For that health class, we use like American Diabetes Association website, American Heart Association, Cancer Society. So we could list that. We still want to list something, what they're going to be utilizing. Okay? That's pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure it's formatted correctly, APA or MLA. Technical Review Committee will look through those things. The Technical Review Committee, remember, they're going to review this online. And they will make recommendations for you to change. Don't feel bad when they do that. They do that to me still. I could make this form 100 times and I'll still make like 1 error. Right? Because you read it so many times, you think it looks perfect to you, but they'll still find something.
Question, would it help to have the ISBN number for a specific textbook if there are multiple editions?
I don't think anybody listed that on that form, but that's definitely something you want to put in your syllabus.
Okay.
I've never seen an ISBN listed on this particular form. If it's helpful to you, you could, I guess, but definitely you can put it on the syllabus for sure. Okay, so we're good with the textbook. Section 3 is recommended instructional strategies. So what are you going to do when you're teaching this? Is it going to be lecture? Are you going to demonstrate? You just click the box, okay? If it's a lab, you have to check mark lab. Opposite that, don't check mark lab if it's a lecture class, because we're going to make sure that those align. We've seen some, the technical review and the curriculum committee, where it was a lab class, but that wasn't checked. So that doesn't make sense to us, right? And then whatever else you're doing, there's a lot of options here. If you don't see what you're doing, you could just type out under other, your instructional strategy. Then we get to the fun part. How are you going to assess the student? Go ahead, did you have a question?
Under that, the instructional strategies, would that include online, or is that, okay.
So whether you're teaching online or an on-campus class, the course outline is going to be the exact same thing. So we should be teaching the same thing to the online students as we do to the on-campus students. Okay. So if you're debating about, well, maybe I feel like in my online section they do online discussions, but in my class we talk, then you just take discussions and that would cover both of them. But hopefully, is yours exclusively online or is it both?
It's both. I don't teach the online section. There are 2 online sections.
Okay. You want to talk with the other maybe instructors that teach that to make sure you're on the same pathway for making sure the students are having the same experience. For the assessment, in section 4 and 5, they have to add up to 100 together. So we don't have 100% here and 100% here, but together 4 and 5 have to add up to 100%. So how do we assess them? Formative is the shorter, quick assessments that you do maybe on a weekly basis just to see if they're progressing. The summative assessment are the end results of the class where maybe you want to know now towards the end or maybe even a midterm, do they know the learning outcomes like you expected them to know? That's like the capstone, or the end product is the summative. And you can tell that because the formative are shorter things, right? A quick quiz, a quick journal entry, maybe a paper that's short along the way. But the summative are the larger projects that the student accomplishes to prove they've learned the student outcomes. Okay, so what do I have? On my example, I have 50 and 50. So I did 50% of my class is formative and 50% of my class is summative. Wherever you're checking, you know, you're going to mark, like on my example, 25% was quizzes. 25% is discussion. And then I put, in matter of fact, on here I put online or oral. And then 25, and under summative I have 25% is your project, 20% final exam, and 5% is a dive analysis. And together those should all add up to 100%. And if you don't like what's on the course outline now, maybe that's something you change. If you want to change the way you're assessing the student, then you would go through one of these course revisions. Okay? Okay, the indirect assessment tool, you could check that. It's not graded, but maybe you want to see if a particular topic for the whole class was being well understood. So you can have them do 1-minute journal or a quick, short answer when they walk into class. I don't know if you want to do a non-graded pop quiz, but these things would be not part of the grade. General education learning outcomes. This is actually the primary thing that was changed when we developed the new form that was produced for February 1st. So we changed the course outline, and I told you we let that new version go live on February 1st. The primary thing that was changed was the gen eds. Triton used to have 9 gen eds. Now we have 5. These are college-wide gen eds. So at the end of a Triton College, at the end of a student's career at Triton College, when they leave, we expect them to have mastered or be proficient at these 5 gen eds. Global learning, quantitative literacy, information literacy, communications, and critical thinking. So you have to think, what role is your class in developing those outcomes for a Triton student? Again, regardless of what major they're in. I think I was an overachiever because I marked all in my nutrition class. But you have to think, are you doing quantitative literacy? Are we doing numbers and reasoning with numbers? Are we doing critical thinking where they're looking at both sides of an issue and then developing their educated opinion? Are they able to make decisions based off of research? Are they able to communicate, written or orally? Where does your class fit into these things? I like global learning because there's a lot of different options here. Are they learning different cultures, diversity, different perspectives, challenges for different groups? Okay, so you're going to check mark which box your course will help a Triton College succeed in. And then we have the fun. This is my favorite part. I don't think I've ever really read this part, though. You got to write on this area your topics and then your outcomes. I'm going to see if I can pull up my nutrition class really quickly here so you guys can see it. And I'll take a quick breather here for a moment. Maybe give you some time to think if you have any questions. So typically, if I wanted to pull up any course outline, I could go to the portal and they would all be there. But because our portal was down, I actually just emailed it to myself. And that's where you'll find the classes that you teach, is on that portal. So this is that nutrition one. Okay, so here you can see the topic that the teacher will discuss, how many hours they spend on that topic, and then what the learning outcome is for the student. This is all lecture. If it was lab, then we would list how many hours they're in the lab. And then there would be different outcomes for lecture and lab. So sometimes I see a course, let's do the carbs, it's easy. Let's say I was doing a lab class and a lecture class that talked about carbs. I would check mark both lecture and lab column. Maybe I would put 2 hours for each. I would have to have different outcomes for a lecture that I do for lab. Because a lecture, you know, we're worried about the action verbs. What are they being able to discuss, to analyze? Those are the lecture kind of outcomes. A lab outcome is what are they being able to perform, you know, synthesize, what are they being able to do, right? What can they produce with a lab? So they have to have different learning outcomes, lectures and lab, okay? I use, if you're familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, I will always pull that up and have it with me when I'm writing learning outcomes or going over your learning outcomes that you guys write. And I believe that there was a link on this page for some of that, but you could also just Google Bloom's taxonomy and that will come up with action verbs. What we'll do, this is 3 credit hours of lecture, so I will list all 45 hours that I'm in the classroom with the student, what I'm doing. You may need to copy and paste to make more rows like I did. And then at the end, I will count up all the hours and make sure it's accurate. Okay, if it's a 2 lecture class, it's 30 hours. So we're going to count and make sure we got to 30 hours in the classroom. And if you're interested, remember how I was talking about how we come up with the student credit hours? The math for it is here. 1 credit hour for every 15 context hours for lecture, 1 credit hour for every 15 context hour for lab, but we have to double that lab. So you're still in class for 15 hours for each lab hour, but 2 lab hours equates to 1 credit hour for the student. So the student has to be in class for 30 hours to get 1 credit hour if it's a lab. Okay. So what are your questions? I've gone through everything and we have still about 15-20 minutes here to take some questions.
I've got a question regarding hours in the classroom and hours outside of the classroom. That's, you're weighting how much your reading assignments will equate to outside classroom hours?
So that, the outside hours do not go on the topical hour outline, just what's done in the class. We expect though, as a college, there's a number that, I can't even remember what that number is. For every 1 hour in the class, what is it, Shelley?
I think it's 2 hours for every one that's.
Yeah, it's under 8. Here, minimum of 2 hours outside study for each 1 hour lecture in class.
Yeah.
So that would include books or assigned films or videos to watch outside of class.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and you don't have to list that on this topical outline. It's assumed that if a student is taking we'll do 45-hour lecture class times 2, 90 hours of homework. Yeah. Right, because you expect them to study at home, prepare themselves at home. I actually put that in my syllabus, so sometimes students think, oh, I'm going to take an easy class. Well, it should all be the same amount of time and the same amount of rigor. So I put that in my syllabus. You know, you may be in this 45-hour class, but I expect you to also study for every 2 hours. I think I do intervals again, like 2 to 3 hours for every time you're in the classroom. What are your other questions? Tell me what you guys are thinking about revising, or maybe you're going to create a new one, new course.
Well, a lot of my classroom time is spent showing film, which it takes up lecture time. And to me, that shouldn't count as lecture. That should be maybe assigned homework to watch, and then we discuss it in class. So I'm thinking about turning that around.
That's a good idea. There are some teachers that do like the flipped classroom where you do all the busy work at home, and then you could create things or discuss them in the classroom, and that's really what's enhancing the student learning.
Yeah.
I started doing that the same thing. I use Blackboard. I use Blackboard all the time for my on-campus classes. Everything that they're doing in the classroom, they're going to see it also on Blackboard, so they can watch a video, and I don't have to worry. They can watch my presentation on a PowerPoint, so I don't have to worry about going through every slide word for word, you know. And then we could create things and analyze things in class. That's a very valuable, and that's how they want to do that too. Students want that.
Yeah.
They don't want to just sit there and listen to a 1.5 hour lecture. You know, they want to create things, and that enhances learning. It's called, there's some books on it too. Maybe Shelley has them, the flipped classroom.
Yes, we have it. We addressed it.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Check it out.
What else are you guys thinking of revising for your classes? Or maybe are you thinking of creating a new one?
Well, I thought about, for some time, we talked about developing a invasive species class, because that's very, not just for horticulture, that could be, broader science issue as well, because that's a very relevant issue. It's always something new. I mean, a lot of economic impact, social impact, so
Definitely.
it's pretty interesting.
So my first question to you would be, we know it's a value, and I can understand both, you know, whether it's water or soil. It's definitely a value and something the students could learn from. So the first two things I would do if I was creating a class like that would be, what curriculum is it going to be tied to? And do other colleges teach that? And then that'll actually help you a little bit too, because you sometimes could access the syllabus from another school. Maybe UIC teaches something like that. I developed a class that we didn't have. It's called Culture and Food. Dominican had it, UIC had it. I emailed them and said, can I see a copy of your syllabus? And they sent it. So I could look at what they're teaching compared to what I want to teach. Reference textbooks for information as well. One more thing, and then I'll get you. The recording secretary for the curriculum committee is Susie Morato, and she can also see if that class will transfer. So once it goes through curriculum, or you could do it ahead of time before you do all the work, see if that class transfers, and you would actually, Susie Morato would get a hold of that, and she could send it out to all state schools and see if they'll accept that as an elective. Okay. But it sounds like a great idea. You know, and a lot of the learning outcomes, I browse through textbooks and see, you know, what are the chapters like, what are the outcomes in that textbook, and then it'll help you decide what you want to put as your learning outcomes and topics. Okay.
You said you checked with other colleges to see similar courses, but that's just kind of your personal experience. You know that those other colleges have that. Does the ICCB serve as a clearinghouse? Because they have to see all of this curriculum. Can you contact them and say, who else teaches a class similar to this in the state?
Yeah, I think Susie could help with that, and that's why we have those II classes. So if we have a class that is II, then we know that all the other schools teach that exactly the same way. That's really what giving a class an II number means. All these schools that are participating in II will teach the exact same thing at every school, and it will transfer the exact same way at every school. So now if it doesn't have an II number, we could send that out and see if other schools have that. It's called articulation. Like, will this class from Triton College count at this school? And if so, what does it count as? And the state would tell us what that would count as. There is a website that may do that too. I think it's Transferology. I'm going to Shelley again. Do you know if the name of the website is Transferology? You can type in Triton's course, and then that will pop up what that is at another school. Okay. We're looking to that. I'm pretty sure it's Transferology. Mm-hmm. So you go on transferology.what? .com. And if you type in, they may go by prefixes again, like, what is your prefix? MCM? MCM, and then you put the number, and then a list will show up. What is that class at U of I? What is it at Dominican? What is it at, you know, whatever school?
Now, I've got to believe MCM is not going to be directly related to everything, because it could fall under cinema, it could fall under communication.
Well, the cool thing about this website is it may be a different prefix at another school, but it'll still tell you MCM at Triton, but at UIC it's ABC, but it's still counting as that class. Mm-hmm.
So what happens if the curriculum committee actually approves something?
That's the good news. Then I don't know.
wasn't working yet.
I feel like I'm running this committee to make sure it's ready to go to the state. Because I don't want to send something to the state and then say, this class is terrible, we're not going to accept it. You can't teach it. So we make sure, and that's why if we tell you to do something, we're not making up the rules. There's an actual handbook. There's a handbook that the state gives us to say, this is the protocol you have to follow with your courses. We make sure that it's adhering to those rules. And then Susie, again, the recording secretary, will send these courses out to the ICCB, the Illinois College Community Board. They review them and say yes or no. Now, there are some classes that they've said no to. We have some IAI classes from years ago that nobody revised for a long time. And the standards are going up with how these things are documented. When I first started working here 20 years ago, you could put your topic down, I'm going to teach bread, and the outcome is students know what bread is. And then that was passed 20 years ago. That wouldn't pass today. So it has to be much more scientific and in-depth today. Especially if you're doing an IAI class, the more detail you put here, the better. I tell this to my son all the time, don't just put 2 or 3 words because you want to get it done. It won't pass. Put as much detail as you can, especially if it's an IAI class. Okay? So the state will look at it, and then hopefully it will be approved. And that's the job of the curriculum committee and the TRC and the deans and the chairs to review this before it gets to state. So we want everything going out now to be ready to go. And I'll show you that chain of how it goes till we get it back. A simple revision, it could be effective in 1 semester. So what you're working on now will be effective in summer. It's not immediately effective once that curriculum committee passes it, because that's just before the state. The state takes a little bit of time to pass. So what's being done now could be effective. If it's a revision, it'll be effective in summer. It takes 1 semester to be effective. If it's a new class, I believe it's 2 semesters, and if it's a new curriculum, it's a year. So you have to make your curriculum almost a year before it could be taught at Triton College, because it has to go through this timeline, and then the state has to approve it. And the state takes longer with curriculum than with courses. New curriculum, 2 years? 1 year, 1 year. Curriculum revisions is probably a little quicker, though. Curriculum revisions, I'm going to say it's quicker. I'm not exactly sure if it's 1 or 2 semesters of revision. So hopefully the portal will be accessible to you. I want you to go through there and look for your class once that portal is accessible to you. Under faculty resources at the top, and then curriculum. All the courses at Triton, every single class is going to be put on this new form. I think I said that to you guys before. So your department chair or coordinator may ask you to assist in the revisions. So you would open up a file. It would look just like this with all the information on it, but then you could make your revisions. Okay? You make your revisions. You check mark. You definitely need to check mark the gen eds. And whatever you change, I actually fill out the course outline before I do, that's not what I want to go. How do I get rid of this? There. I fill out the course outline. I make my changes on that before I do this. This is what I actually do afterwards. So what did I change? Then I can start filling that in, the course proposal page. Any other questions? So you can email me. My email address is Julianne Murphy, Julianne Murphy, or on the website, the Senate website or the portal, information is listed there as well, if you have further questions. You could just let me know. I don't know where the website went now. Actually, I did want to show you this real quick. This is the deadline to make the curriculum committee meetings. This, again, is on the Senate website under the curriculum area, or it's on the portal. So for the next meeting, which is let's see, March 7th. The paperwork would need to be to the curriculum committee today, so you're not going to make this next meeting. But you can see how far, it's almost a month in advance that the paperwork has to come to the curriculum committee before it goes to be voted on. So if you're thinking of revisions, if you want to go to the April 4th meeting, the curriculum committee meeting are the first Thursday of every month, you have to get you would have to get your paperwork into the chair, the dean, and the dean would have to get it to the curriculum committee by March 11th. And if the dean has it by March 11th, you can go to the April meeting. April 8th is the deadline if you want to go to the May meeting. We do not meet in summer. But summer is a good time to work on curriculum if maybe you're getting a little extra compensation for that. If you tell the dean, you're going to do a little extra work, there is a possibility. I do a lot of curriculum work because I'm a full-time faculty, so I do a lot in summer when I have extra time. And then I send it all in August, so it gets to the first meeting in fall.
But that, with this calendar here, this is a process to get changes for the next year. Not necessarily fall. Even if you're making all of these deadlines here, it wouldn't take operation in August.
Right. So we vote on it on these dates. After we vote on it, then it has to be sent to the state for approval, and then the board actually has to vote on it too. So the meeting is almost the starting point for approvals for the state and then for the board, for Triton's board. So it takes some time to get things through. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for coming, and if you need anything, please email me. Thank you. There are a review sheet, if you could fill that out and leave it on the desk there before you leave.
Julianne.